topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Leadership for Life with Gina Gardner on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Join your host, who is a multiple #1 international best-selling author, motivational speaker, empowerment and transformational leadership coach and trainer. She's the founder of Genuinely-You and has 30 years experience of helping people step into their genuine, authentic power. And now, here is Gina Gardner, your host of Leadership for Life.
Hello there and welcome to the show. Really pleased to be here, and I've got a great guest lined up for you, Loraine LaPointe. I'm going to talk more about her later. Do you want to live an empowered life? And indeed, do you know what it means to be empowered? You know, there are many people who are struggling at the moment, who are operating at a functional level rather than stepping into being their best self and living life in a phenomenal way. I want you to think about what it is you like about your life and what it is that you wish was different, because ultimately the only person who's really going to make a difference to that is you. Now, the quality of our life, I believe, is determined by the quality of our thoughts, our mindset, because how we think, how we turn up in the world determines our relationships with ourselves, with other people, whether we're going to thrive or whether we're going to simply survive. If you listen to the news, there are many people who are barely surviving. But you don't have to be like that. And ultimately, your choices, how you move through each day, how you see yourself is going to make the difference. So what do I mean by, if you want a better quality of life, think better thoughts? Ultimately, your thoughts are based on your beliefs. So if you believe that you're good enough, then you're going to make decisions based on the fact that you have confidence and that you feel good about yourself. If you believe you're not good enough, not tall enough, not rich enough, that there's nothing you can do, that ultimately you are the flotsam and jetsam in other people's river, then that will be the quality of life that you have. But if you believe that ultimately you are the person who can control your life, be the leader of your own life, then you will take different decisions. We're going to be talking after the break with Lorraine around, how you can feel happy and confident and, personally and professionally transforming yourself by looking after yourself, by the self-care, so much more. But I want you to think about the last few days. How many decisions have you taken that are based on being fearful, believing you're not enough, believing that other people are the ones that control your life? Now, if you live in the moment, then you have the opportunity to choose the quality of that moment, even when things are difficult. But if you are spending much time wishing that the past had been different, or wishing that you could have the past again, that you wanted it to be the same, or worrying about the future, which may never happen, the quality of your life is going to be determined by that looking back or anticipating, and in reality, you'll miss the moment. We've talked a lot on this show about gratitude and using gratitude as a way to empower yourself to enjoy the moment. Because even if you're having a bad day, you can still enjoy the natural world, or a good cup of tea or coffee, or a great meal. You can still reach out to somebody else and phone a friend, or ultimately, if you're allowed to be close to one another, I'm looking forward in the UK to the time when we can hug one another again, just coming out in the next stage of lockdown. But ultimately still appreciating other people and recognizing that those relationships are important. Being grateful is a great way of fine-tuning your thoughts. But let's think about beliefs for a moment. Your beliefs are created, for the most part, when you're very young, and we don't question them. So if you believe you will fail, it's a done deal. It is actually, well, there's going to be no choice. If you believe you'll fail, you're going to make decisions and take action that will lead to you failing. And for most people, that means that they won't even get started. Or they'll procrastinate, or they'll get started and then self-sabotage. If you fear you're going to fail, then you're going to take a different set of decisions that are all about trying to keep yourself safe and in your comfort zone. If you believe you'll succeed, you don't actually have to know the how straight away. And, again, we talk so much about how many people in this world who are very, very successful have actually failed several times and see that failure as an opportunity to develop. They don't go into catastrophe because something's not worked. They think, okay, do I need to tweak this? Can I do this slightly differently and make it work? Or do I need a complete rethink? But what they do is they keep the forward momentum. Now, in order to live an amazing life, your mindset is incredibly important. The beliefs that you hold about yourself, the world, are really important. But also how you care for yourself. If you are well and vital, that gives you the opportunity to make decisions in a very, very different way. But ultimately, you decide what you put into your mouth or not. You decide whether to take exercise or not. You decide that most of us are making decisions at an unconscious level, at a habitual level. It doesn't pass the conscious mind at all. And so in reality, they're non-decisions because they are following a pattern which may or may not be helpful. Think about what you're doing. Don't be judgmental. Don't make up stories about it or how terrible you are, but simply recognize those patterns. We've talked about becoming the journalist in your own life. And if you were a really hot journalist and you had been given a subject to look at, you would examine every part of their life. And I'm suggesting that you do the same in your life, but without the judgment. It is what it is, and you have a choice to keep it or to change it. It's as simple as that. We tend to hugely overcomplicate things and make up these stories which are disabling us. I have a theory that being disabled, right, is something that is true for many, many people. And I'm not talking about physical disability. Those of you who know my story will know that I still use a wheelchair and that I have learnt to walk twice as an adult. But if you believe you're not good enough, if you believe you can't, if you believe that you are too fat, too thin, too tall, you're the wrong colour, the wrong religion, that a belief that limits you in any way, or you diss your ability, I'm no good at that you get in first before other people do. I'm useless at that. You're dissing your ability rather than I haven't learnt to do that yet, I'm on the way. Then what you are doing is disabling yourself, putting yourself into a straitjacket. That is very, very difficult to escape unless you're consciously choosing to do something else. At least with my wheelchair, I can get into it, always on full speed, and I can wheel away. But you take those limiting beliefs with you into every moment of every day. And so it really makes sense to look at those beliefs and to challenge them. If they are empowering you, keep them. If they're not, then it's time to change them. And these beliefs are far-reaching. They're all part of your mindset. Beliefs about yourself, I'm worthy or not. Beliefs about money. Money doesn't grow on trees, that money is difficult to earn. All of those will keep you operating at a particular vibrational level and operating in a particular way in terms of behavior. I've worked with many people who have money troubles, and then when you talk to them, they've got into debt. They're paying compound interest on their credit cards. They will go out and buy coffee on the way to work, that they will buy lunch out, that they smoke or they drink heavily. And when you start to put all of those things into place, their mindset is of a lack in terms of money. Those people who are abundant recognize that there are good investments, investing in yourself, for example, or investing in things like property, where there is a return. But they know that investing in a bottle of wine or going out for the evening isn't an investment that will actually give them a return. It might actually give them a return in terms of the short term, but not in the long term. So examine your beliefs about money. Examine your beliefs about every aspect of your life. And those that are limiting you and keeping you small, it's time to change those. Now, I'm sure we're going to go into some of this in much more detail with Lorraine after the break. So don't go away. I have a phenomenal guest who has so much to offer, but I'll introduce her after this short break.
You have been listening to Gina Gardner on Leadership for Life. We'll be back after this quick break. Want to get the best out of life personally and professionally? Are you ready to step into a life which excites and fulfills you? Well, the right place for you is Leadership for Life with Gina Gardner on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. We will share with you stories from inspiring people, a wide range of guest experts, and lots of practical strategies to help you get the very best out of your personal and professional life. Leadership for Life is a radio and TV show focused on helping you live a happier, more successful, and fulfilling life. Join international best-selling author, motivational speaker, empowerment and transformational leadership coach and trainer, Gina Gardner, live every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Become the leader of your own life. Gina Gardner's #1 international best-selling book, Thriving Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success, and Fulfillment, provides you with the foundational principles on which to become the best leader of your own life. It's available as an ebook, paperback, hardback, and as an audio from genuinely-u.com, or also from Amazon. Every one of the principles have been proven to work for the countless people who have used them, including the author. Now, let's put them to work for you. If you're ready to discover your true leadership life design, accelerate your journey with an invitation to join Gina for a Leadership for Life VIP Day. Choose your journey of self-discovery where Gina will help you navigate your way to happiness, success, and fulfillment. To find out more, email Gina at genuinely-u.com. Welcome back to Leadership for Life. Here is your host, Gina Gardner.
Hi there. I am so excited to introduce my guest to you. I'm going to read you her bio. Loraine LaPointe is a mindset fitness coach who prefers clarity over confusion, calm over chaos, and like us, she enjoys feeling confident and in control. Her work shows compassionate women who have a burning desire to use their strengths, gifts, and talents to serve others how to shift their mindset so they can feel fulfilled, purposeful, and empowered. Lorraine knows it's important to take good care of yourself in order to take great care of others as you grow into the second part of your life. So without more ado, I'd like to introduce you to my great guest, Loraine LaPointe.
Hello, nice to be here. Thank you, Gina.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you ever so much. Before we get started, some may be familiar because I know you are also a host on W4CY. But for those who are catching the show and don't know you, would you like to tell us, how have you come to be, an empowerment coach? What's the story?
Well, I'll start not quite at the beginning with one day I was born. But I'll start a little.
Yes.
There was a time in my life. I was a teacher and a principal, and both of my parents were tragically diagnosed with terminal illnesses at the same time.
Oh, my goodness, that must have been hard.
Yes. So there I was in this very busy life, suddenly needing to focus on helping both of my parents with the process of dying. And in throughout that process, I did have some wonderful help from some friends who were very supportive. And one of the ways that they supported me was helping me find a really non-judgmental, wonderful therapist and coach. And she helped me compartmentalize my life so that when I was at work or at school as a principal, I focused there. When I was at the hospital after school, I focused on my parents. And when I went home, I also focused on me. So that through that process, I actually managed to, maintain my mindset fitness. And then afterwards, she helped me through the grieving process. And then she helped me put my life back together again to get things back in alignment. And I remember thinking, I want to do that for others. And so when I left education a few years ago, the first thing I did was became a hypnotherapist and a coach. And now I'm proud to say that that's exactly what I do for others. I help them create a mindset fitness so that they can thrive in whatever the challenge is that they're experiencing.
That's brilliant. Isn't it interesting how people, if their car is going wrong or the boiler's not quite right on the central heating, they will immediately get an expert in to sort it out for them.
Yeah.
And yet when people are going through huge challenges and traumas, many people don't think about actually reaching out and getting some expert help. And I find it quite interesting how those people who recognize the value of doing it get such huge benefits from it. And there are so many more who could do the same, but are as yet unconscious to those benefits. And so they don't. So talk me through, this your program for mindset, because there are many, many people, I'm sure at the moment, who are struggling with a lack mindset, with a it's all too difficult mindset, and I can't cope. What are the principles that you built your program on?
Thank you for asking. So the program is an online program. It actually runs on the app on your phone, and it guides you daily through a process that is called, that I call No Sweat Mindset Fitness Fundamentals. So when most of us go through life, we have, all of us have these little negative inner voices in the back of our mind. And you very eloquently brought to light many of them at the beginning of the show. You can't do this. You're not smart enough. You don't have enough, fill in the blank. There are people who live with procrastination. They don't know, they try to get motivated to do things, and for some reason they just can't get the motivation. Or there are others where it's perfectionism. It's that sense of everything has to be just so before they can step up and be seen and heard. There's a sense of worry sometimes that, we're going to be judged by others in what we do. And so all of these negative feelings, these negative thoughts, these habits of mind, as you said, these beliefs, originate in a particular part of the brain. And what happens, they are there, and originally when we're young, they're there to help us. They protect us from things. But these neural pathways to this negative area, we'll call them saboteurs, because that's what we call them in my program, is saboteurs. So these saboteurs are very active, and they are very strong in terms of neural pathways in the brain. So what Mindset Fitness does is it actually allows you to stop and shift to a different part of your brain that allows you to think in a more positive way. It gets you in touch with the inner wise self, as I often call it, or sage mind. And there's actually very specific physical things that you can do to choose that shift. Can I share one with you?
Oh, please do. One or many. Very happy. I'm sure our listeners and viewers will be too.
So one of the things that I love to do when I do Mindset Fitness, and Mindset Fitness is something that takes only a few moments, a few times a day, to actually start shifting and strengthening what I call your self-command. Your self-command allows you to make the choices, like rather than, as you said, you're going to do something and that immediate feeling of I'm not enough, or maybe I shouldn't, or perhaps somebody will judge me, or whatever, or I don't have enough money, I don't have enough resources, or money doesn't grow on trees was one of them that you mentioned, is you can catch yourself. And when you catch yourself hearing that negative voice, this is something that you can do. Simply put your thumb and your finger together and just rock them gently back and forth. And I invite you to do that right now. And rock them back and forth, focusing on the sensations on the tips of your finger and thumb until you can feel the ridges on both. Okay. Just do that for a few moments. And then move to the second finger. And if you're having any difficulty, you can do one hand. You don't have to do both. Or you can do both. It's totally, these is what Mindset Fitness is wonderful. I call it no sweat mindset, because there's nothing that'll make you sweat and you can't do it wrong. So just go ahead and do that, rock that, and then the third finger and fourth finger. Take a deep breath and notice how you feel. And for many, they notice that they suddenly have a sense of calm. They can be confidently in control, because one of the things that our inner voices try and tell us all the time is that we're out of control, that we don't have choice, that there's something wrong with us. And that's an insidious belief. In fact, you mentioned the lockdowns and that kind of thing. One of the things that we have been under for the last number of months is the fact that we've been walking around like this. And that actually is a communication. It's a visual communication that there's something wrong with either you or me. And so that if you're feeling a little depressed or you're feeling a little distraught, that is the fundamental underpinning of mental illness and stress, depression, anxiety, is that there's something wrong with you. And so
I think sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead and I'll come back. You go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and so Mindset Fitness is something there's all kinds of exercises. Finger one is one. Another one is just take a moment and listen. And I'm just going to be quiet so that your listeners can do this, but just listen. And what I want you to do is listen for the most furthest away sound that you can hear. and then listen to the most close sound that you can hear. So we'll just take a few seconds to do that. I know on radio it's not good to have dead space, but let's just take a few seconds. And did you notice that when you were focused on listening for the faraway sounds, that you could actually hear other things that you weren't aware of before? And then when you bring the focus closer to you, many are able to hear their breath, their breathing, and are very much not aware. We do that so automatically. But you can do that anywhere, anytime, for as long as you choose.
It's really interesting, isn't it? I think that any technique which blocks out the white noise of life and gives us an opportunity to center is really, really helpful. It's interesting because one of the exercises that I will use with people is to use your senses, to start with your sense of hearing. What can I hear? Although I don't do the distance and the near, but just what can you hear? Very interesting. But then what can you feel? Can you feel the clothes on your skin? Can you feel the cushion beneath you? What do you feel inside? What can you taste? Maybe there's a smell that you can smell. And then finally, open your eyes, because you're doing that with your eyes closed. And then what can you see? And I think, the brain is constantly trying to manage information, isn't it, these days? We live such busy, chaotic, hectic lives that just bringing that back to center ourselves is so valuable. So that's
there are billions of bytes of information, bits and bytes of information coming at us all day, every day. Sight, sound, smell, color, shape. Everything is coming at us. And our conscious mind, the mind that you and I are talking with at the moment, has only 7 to 9 pieces of information that it can process at a time.
Yeah.
Which means it needs to make meaning and move on.
Yeah.
But our subconscious mind is aware of it all. And our subconscious mind is the part of our mind, the part of our brain that controls our emotions. And it controls our beliefs. And it controls for the most part, our decisions. As you were speaking about at the beginning of the show. So we want to...
many people... That shift from being an unconscious thinker to a conscious thinker, for me, that shift is just pivotal in terms of how you move forward and create a better quality of life for yourself, and through that for other people.
Well, and the reason I mentioned the app, so part of my program is on, or a lot of my program is on an app that's on your phone. So it's customized completely to whichever saboteurs are actually currently influencing your life in a negative way. Okay. And we all have slightly different. There are 10 of them, but they work in combination. And so it's ideal to be customized to what's going on for you. And because it's an app, it can give us what we call a pattern interrupt. So often we get busy in our day, we don't even recognize when we need to take just a couple of minutes break. And so the app is designed to help you take that, to create that pattern interrupt and take that couple of minutes break. There's a what we call PQ. These are called PQ reps, the fingertip thing and the breathing thing, the listing thing, are all PQ reps. And there's tons of them. But we often forget, because it's very easy to forget, that we need to do to interrupt the pattern of our thoughts through the day. So that's one of the aspects. Another aspect is that we do best when we work together. As you said, people, your pipe breaks, you get on the phone and you call a plumber. But when your emotions aren't in sync or aligned, or you're in distress of some kind, we hide. We don't reach out. And I personally believe that we are here to help one another through these things. And so my program also creates a sense of community, a sense of belonging. because people work together in small pods, we call them, 3 to 5 people. And the pods meet weekly and encourage. Each person in a pod is given an encourager,
Yes.
so that someone encourages you and you encourage someone else to stay on track, to find out how it's going, to celebrate your victories. Because if you do something really well, it's nice to have someone to talk to who's like-minded to share that with. And so many people these days are alone in their home.
I think that's so true. You know, one of the things that strikes me is that we are, as a society, we're depressed. You look at the news, you look what's going on. It's very easy to get caught up in that sense that I'm only small, there's nothing I can do, that it's all terrible, there's the pandemic and there's this and there's that and the other, and lose track of actually we all have the power to take control of our own lives, and then working together with other like-minded people. You and I have had conversations, and certainly like-minded people, that together you can make changes. And then if you join with other people, those changes can expand and be bigger. And ultimately, we can change the way the world is if we work on ourselves first and then work with others to do so. Just interested in your take on that.
Yeah, it's the only way anything ever happens is by, someone makes a decision, notices something needs to change, makes a decision, takes an action, and that action spins to another action, which grows to another action. It's how all life unfolds and change happens. Can I mention the B1G1?
We're going to talk about the B1G1. Just hold off for the B1G1 for a moment, if you may.
Okay.
Go on.
I was just going to say, because it's those individual choices and actions that when they become collective, and I love the word hive, become collective, that we make a difference in the world. We make a difference for ourselves, we make a difference for others. And it all starts with awareness and observation. Yeah.
It does indeed. I'm sorry, there's a bit of a time lag, so I'm sorry I keep interrupting you, but it's to do with the internet playing up today, because the weather is poor in the UK. So my apologies for that.
No problem.
I'm not knowingly cutting across you. Before we go on to B1G1, because that's something that I finished, that I'd like to finish with, because it's really exciting. In terms of how you work with women who are wanting to make a difference, and I work with leaders who want to make a positive difference and a contribution. And I think many women don't see themselves as leaders. And I think it's time that they owned leading their own life and recognize that they are hugely powerful when they choose to be. It was at the Dalai Lama who said that the whole future of the world is actually in the hands of Western women. And I think it's so powerful to think about how we can individually and collectively get together. I'm not excluding men. I don't want any men who are listening to this to think that I'm excluding them, because I'm not. But I think ultimately, as individuals, we can choose whether we make a positive difference by every action or not, every word we speak, when and how or not, every choice that we make. The more conscious we are, the better.
I completely concur. Yes. Can I share something that my mom used to say?
Yes, please.
So, my dad used to say, "I'm the head of the household," and when it comes to men and women, and my mom said, "That's just fine, honey, as long as I'm the neck, because the neck is the head."
I like that. Yeah, it is. Isn't it interesting that we have the ways that we think about how to move forward are going to make a difference. You and I were having a conversation, this is before a few days ago, about how as empaths, as people who have the opportunity to use our inner voice, our inner wisdom, if you like, we're in tune with that. I think that the recognition that everybody has that skill, that opportunity, if they choose to tune in and practice it, that there is so much collective wisdom that we can tune into if we have a mind to. But it all comes back to making a conscious decision that that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, and being in the right frame of mind. I mean, I love our language, because our language, I do something called parts therapy. So, quite often you'll hear parts therapy used in our regular language. Oh, part of me wants to do this. Part of me wants to do that. That kind of language. But when we are in the right frame of mind, which is interesting because the right frame of mind refers to our sage frame of mind, to the wiser self, we can access what I call the 5 human superpowers. So human beings can choose empathy. We can choose to be aware of others. My program is often referred to as positive intelligence, which is PQ. And PQ is a combination of IQ, which is, in cognitive intelligence, how smart we are, and EQ, which is our emotional intelligence, which is our awareness of ourselves and others. And when you combine IQ and EQ, you get PQ. And we all have it. And so we can choose to activate our sense of empathy and up our EQ with others. We can activate our sense of exploration and be open-minded and allow ourselves to consider possibilities and opportunities that we might not even be aware of until we open our minds. We can innovate. We can come up with, look for what is right that others are doing. We're so quick to judge and so quick to jump in.
I also think that people are very good at focusing on the problem rather than saying to themselves, okay, what would be my ideal solution? Because when I know what I want rather than what I don't want, then I can start to take steps to actually achieve that.
And that is innovative. That's innovative. It's being aware that you have options. As you said at the beginning of the show, you can choose how you respond to things based on an awareness of your beliefs, and start to question yourself. Is that really true? Is that what I truly believe? Is that what I truly want? And sometimes it's really interesting because we can have 2 parts. Part of us wants something and another part doesn't want it. And so we feel conflicted inside. We can be aware of being conflicted. And it's okay to be conflicted. Just take a step back and listen to both parts. And then from your wiser self, make a decision.
I think that's really sound advice. And for me, sometimes it's about getting curious. Where's this coming from? Is this my thought, or is this somebody else's that's coloured my thinking over the time? There are so many ways that you can look at anything. Our perception, we think, is the truth. It's not the only truth, is it? It's just our perception in that moment. And when we choose to engage other information or other thoughts, then that perception can change. Listen, we could talk all night. Before we go any further, I want to talk about B1G1. Now, those who listen to the show will know that I ask my guests to choose from 3 projects, and I choose 3 projects each month. and I ask my guests to choose which project that they want, and we donate on their behalf. What you're not aware of is that I also send an email to every guest and invite them to become members of B1G1 so that they can actually spread the word. Now, B1G1 is an organization that works around the world, set up by Masana Sato, who we interviewed at the very beginning of the year. So do go and listen to her interview. It's awe-inspiring. She set up B1G1 many years ago because she wanted to make a difference. So it's an organization which helps, it doesn't run the projects, but it identifies and monitors projects around the world. And then people who belong to B1G1 can donate money that supports those projects. And those donations are called impacts. And it's broken down in such a way that it becomes affordable for everybody to make a difference. Going back to our conversation earlier, that even if you're not able to spend a lot of money, even a tiny little bit of money, it's been set up in such a way that that can make a difference. So let me give you an example. Very few people could choose to set up a school in another country. But what they do is they then break that schooling down, how many pupils, for, let's say, 10 years. And they break it down to a point of 1 day's education for one child, which costs a few cents, a few pennies. And you can buy multiples. Of course you can. You can educate a child for a whole year, or educate a whole class of children for a whole year or 10 years. But if your resources are limited, it doesn't mean that you can't make a difference, because collectively, everybody's pennies make a difference. The other thing which is so amazing about this organization is that they have a sister organization that raises the money for all of the admin and all of the mechanics of the charity. So every penny, every cent that is donated through B1G1 goes to the projects. There's nothing creamed off to run the organization. Now, you chose something dear to my heart, because both of us have been principals. Would you like to explain what you have chosen? And then I'm going to talk about the other thing that you've done that I'm incredibly excited about.
I was thrilled to get your email. And when I read through the 3 options for projects that you've chosen to support at this point, of course, one just jumped out of the page at me, and that was to support textbooks and education for children. So that was that, because that resonated so deeply with me. I was thrilled to be able to support just by showing up on your show and you deciding that action would trigger a donation. So thank you so much for that opportunity to
that's brilliant. And you know,
that.
everybody, every 100 people who listen live or as a download, we actually donate on their behalf. And for the moment, what we decided is that we will feed hungry people. So just by listening, there will be people who will go to bed with a full tummy rather than starving. And, you know, in the 21st century, the thought that there are still people who haven't got enough to eat to keep life going healthily, I think is just so wrong. So, you know, please encourage people to download, to listen. The more you download, the more we will donate. So I'm very happy. I'd love a great big bill because so many people have downloaded. But one of the other things that I do is to ask the people if they would also become a member of B1G1. And I'm absolutely thrilled that Lorraine is now also a member of B1G1. So what made you decide to join?
As a principal, I had up on my wall the words "kindness matters" in my office. And before every meeting, I asked my children or my parents or my staff members to read my wall. And I asked a simple question. Would you like me to be kind or unkind during this meeting? And in 30 years, I did not have one person who ever said, oh, please be unkind.
I'm sure you didn't.
And so it was, and that was my message, that every action, every thought that we take, you can choose at that point to be kind or unkind. And kindness matters. And B1G1 allows me to marry an activity or an action to a kindness, to an impact somewhere in the world. And as soon as I saw it, it was just kindness matters jumped off the wall at me. And I thought, this is exactly what I want to do through my business.
Well, one of the nice things about B1G1, if you're listening to this and you are a business owner, you know, it's a really great organization to join, and the information is in the show notes. So please. Now, the other thing they do, which I think is lovely, is as I have joined, I've joined through an organization I belong to called Collaboration Global. What B1G1 does is it actually maps how I call it fertilizing. So my B1G1 journey was fertilized through hearing about it through Collaboration Global. And through me, now have been fertilized as a B1G1 member. And so your impacts, they're tracked. So Collaboration Global can track how far their kindness has gone to trigger kindness from other people. And so that will be the same for you, that as you encourage other people to join and to donate, so your fertilization of that kindness will go forth. And I think it's a really powerful way for us to make a difference, particularly when we're all busy people. It's so easy to think, I haven't got time for that, or I can't do that, it's too difficult. B1G1 has set it up in such a way to make it easy. Now, I am very aware that we're running out of time. I think we've got a couple of minutes before the show ends. So before it ends, where can people find you?
They can find me at my website, which is lorainelapointe.ca, or they can also find me at headheartsynergy.com, which is my business. That is what I do, is create Head Heart Synergy. And the other, thank you, Roxy, the producer, for putting up. If they want to know more about my program, they can go to lorraine.link@mfitness. And it's those little awarenesses, it's those little activities, it's those daily things that B1G1 allows us to make so relevant, that also make Mindset Fitness relevant. You know, it's not the big things that you do in your life that really make a difference. It's the millions of little things that you do every day, all day long, that make a difference in your life.
You know, people who listen to the show will have heard me say it's not the grand gesture, it's the small things consistently done. You've been a great guest. Thank you so much. We're getting to the end of the show. I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us both. Go to genuinely-you.com and you'll find lots and lots of resources. If you're interested in training, then we've got the leadership program, but there's also a huge range of training programs for everyone. Go to ginagardnerassociates.co.uk, but you'll find all of the stuff on genuinely-you.com. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you next week. We've got a great guest next week. Madeline Black has a phenomenal story. Don't miss it. Take care, and thank you again, Lorraine. Thanks very much for joining us. Please do listen to the download, get other people to do that too. Take care. Become the leader of your own life. Bye-bye now.
You have been listening to The Leadership for Life with your host, Gina Gardner. Make sure you tune in to W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV next Thursday and every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for more Leadership for Life. If you missed any part of this episode or just want to hear or see it again, you can find the archive of the TV show on Talk 4 TV's YouTube channel and the podcast of The Leadership for Life on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music, and wherever you listen to your podcast.